Today's video is part 2 of our response to a question asked by Jamie Davis about Spanish occlusive approximant pairs. Last time we talked about the pronunciation of Spanish B and V. In this video we're going to talk about the pronunciation of Spanish D. Spanish D is pronounced quite differently from English D, which means that it's one of those sounds that gives English speakers an obvious and immediately noticeable foreign accent when they speak Spanish. Fortunately, it's a reasonably easy sound to pronounce correctly, and learning to do it right immediately makes your Spanish sound a lot more authentic. And that's why we're here, right? So let's jump in and learn about the pronunciation of Spanish D. Spanish D has two pronunciations depending on where it appears in a word or phrase. If it appears at the beginning of an utterance, or after either an N sound or L sound, then it's pronounced as a dental obstruent. That means that the tip of the tongue touches the back of the upper teeth and cuts off the airflow. From here on out, I'm going to refer to this Spanish D as the dental D, because I find it easier to say than dental obstruent. And I'll represent this D using the letter D between brackets. The tongue position of this Spanish D creates a sound that is noticeably and obviously different in quality from the English D, which is pronounced with the tip of the tongue on the gummy ridge above the upper front teeth, called the alveolar ridge. Let's listen to some example words. Daño, de, difícil, dolor, dulce, grande, lindo, manda, falda, saldo. It's often said that Spanish dental D sounds softer and gentler than English D. Well, this softer sound is produced by pronouncing the D with the tip of the tongue on the back of the upper front teeth, rather than on the alveolar ridge. In all other positions in words and phrases, Spanish D is pronounced as an interdental approximant. This means that the tip of the tongue is positioned between the upper and lower teeth, much like the voiced TH sound in English words such as this and that. From here on out, I'm going to refer to this Spanish D as the interdental D, and I'll represent it as this character between brackets. This tongue position creates a sound that is very different in quality from the equivalent English D. Boda, adiós, cada, ayuda, comedor, seda, crudo, moda. The Spanish D in this phonetic context is interdental, while the English D in this phonetic context is an alveolar flap. These are very different sounds. In Spanish, the alveolar flap is a variation of the R, not the D. So to a Spanish ear, the English pronunciation of this D sounds a lot like a Spanish flapped R. So when an English speaker says adiós and ayuda, with a typical English speaker accent, to a Spanish speaker it sounds like adiós and ayuda, with an R where the D should be. This mispronunciation is a major part of what gives native English speakers their peculiar foreign-sounding accent when speaking Spanish. Learning to pronounce Spanish interdental D correctly will do wonders for making your Spanish accent sound more authentic. It's very important to understand that Spanish pronunciation rules apply across word boundaries. So the rule we mentioned earlier about D being pronounced as a dental obstruent at the beginning of an utterance does not mean at the beginning of a word, no matter where the word appears in a phrase. It means at the beginning of an utterance. In other words, when you begin speaking after a pause. Let me show you what I mean with some examples. In all of the following cases, the D is pronounced as dental D at the beginning of the utterance, but exactly the same D in exactly the same word is pronounced as interdental D when it's in the middle of the utterance. In other words, when some other word comes before it. Dama, la dama. Dólar, ese dólar. Dura, no dura. Diseño, mi diseño. Okay, so as we've already mentioned, Spanish interdental D is pronounced very much like the English voiced TH. Well, interestingly, the interdental D also undergoes very similar reduction as the English voiced TH. What I mean by that is that English speakers pronounce the voiced th quite softly depending on where it falls in a word, where it falls in a sentence, how quickly they're speaking, and other factors. Listen to the following sentence and pay attention to how each of the voiced ths is pronounced. I went to the store to buy that thing that you wanted, but they didn't have the right one. In this example, all of the voiced THs were reduced, and some of them were omitted completely. Well, exactly the same thing happens to the Spanish Interdental D. Most speakers of Spanish dialects only pronounce it strongly and clearly when speaking slowly and emphatically. When speaking at a natural pace, they tend to pronounce it softly and even completely omit it in some positions. Listen to how the Interdental D is pronounced in the following examples. No me digas. Usted es de Madrid. Solo entiendo la mitad de lo que dice. Me dijo que le diera un poco a cada uno. Hopefully you're able to hear that when speaking casually and naturally, the Interdental D is softened or reduced, much like the voiced TH in English. Now my recommendation is that native English-speaking students of Spanish enunciate Interdental D fully until they've acquired significant fluency. Just be aware that native Spanish speakers pronounce it in a more relaxed fashion. So let's summarize everything we've learned up to this point. Spanish D is pronounced as a dental obstruent at the beginning of an utterance or after the N sound or the L sound. I call this D the dental D. In all other positions it's pronounced as an interdental approximant. I call this D the interdental D. These rules apply not just within a given word, but also across word boundaries. Interdental D is pronounced much like the voiced TH in English, including a very similar type of softening or reduction that occurs during casual, natural speech. All right, I think this is everything you need to know in order to pronounce D correctly in standard Spanish. I have one additional point to mention, and we'll wrap this up. While all dialects of Spanish reduce interdental D sometimes, they don't all do it to the same degree, nor even to the same D within words. And a small number of dialects even strengthen or emphasize certain interdental Ds. A significant part of what gives any particular Spanish dialect its characteristic sound is how much it reduces interdental D and which ones it reduces. I considered giving an overview of the various dialect families and how they treat interdental D, but after consideration I thought it would be better to save that topic for a different video. Okay, so this has been our discussion of Spanish D. If you found this video interesting and useful, please give us a like and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our future videos. Also, if you have any questions on any topic related to the Spanish language, please ask in the comments. I'd be happy to consider making a special video just for you.